Welcome back, dear students, and in this tutorial we are going to talk about the role of directors, managers and supervisors. But let's start off with an opening question which you may be able to answer. Who has ultimate responsibility for health and safety in an organization? Well, if you selected the answer everyone, you fell into the trap. Now, everyone is kind of the right answer. Everyone is responsible for health and safety. Of course it is. If you've studied an IOSH working safety course or a managing safety course, that is the correct answer. Everyone's responsible. But it's too simplistic. This qualification is at a higher level. So just to say everyone's responsible is too easy. No, if everyone's responsible, then no one is responsible. Everyone here is responsible for keeping the office tidy. No one keeps the office tidy. No, we have to have specific responsibilities depending on what job the person has and what level of seniority they have in the workplace. First of all, let's look at the employer. The employer could be the organization. So if it's a limited company, the limited company. If it's a public sector government organization, it would be the entity, not the person necessarily. But in many cases, we will have very, very senior people who manage this entity. I say manage, no, they don't manage it. They kind of lead it. That would be a better word, to lead it. So when I say top management, I mean people like the chairman, the chief executive, the chief operating officer. Very, very senior people who are removed from the front line very often. That being said, you might also have very small companies. And a very small company like Compassa is a very small company. At current date of filming, we have 6 people, that's all. It includes me, by the way. So me plus 5 other people. I am very close to the front line, and yet I am the top manager. I'm the owner of the company. So what does it mean? It means that there is someone in the company who has ultimate responsibility. We are at the very top. All of the mistakes that happen at Compassa are ultimately my responsibility. They're not my fault necessarily. I haven't done anything wrong, but I am responsible for making sure things go well. If things go badly at Compassa, ultimately it is the boss who is responsible. And it's the same with all of the companies. So what are the key responsibilities then of the people at the very, very top of an organization? Well, here they are on this slide. So, for example, the first thing we need to do is we need to create defined roles and responsibilities for the people below us. So I, as the owner, have to be very clear who does what in Compassa. And we have different people, different levels of the organization. So we have, for example, directors, we have managers, we have supervisors, and we have frontline workers. We've got all these different levels of the organization, and they all have different roles and different responsibilities. Hey, sorry to interrupt the video. I hope you're finding this useful. If you want more information, we've got loads of free information on our YouTube channel. If you go into our channel playlists, you'll find a whole playlist called the 12 Steps to Smashing Your NG1, IG1, NEBOSH exam, and it'll go through the 12-step process that our students follow to get some of the highest pass rates in the NEBOSH e-learning industry. If you would like even more help, then you can head over to our website, compassa.co.uk, click on NEBOSH Exam Help, and you'll also find study books that you can download for both the national and international general certificates. And without further ado, let's get back into it. Now, defining responsibilities is super important, because if I don't define a responsibility, then people don't know what their job is. If I don't define their responsibility, I can't train them to do their job. How can I train people to do a job if we don't know what the job is? And then let's say that they do a bad job. Well, if I haven't defined what their job is, how do we know they've done a bad job? I mean, I could try to hold them accountable for doing a bad job, but they could just turn around and say to me, well, I didn't think that was my job. Yeah, right, I didn't think that was my job, yes. So we have to define what their job is and then train them on how to do that job, make sure they've got the capability, the competence to do that job, that they've got everything they need in order to do that job well. And if they don't do a good job, then we can hold them to account. So this idea of defined roles and responsibilities is very, very important. What other roles do the top managers have? Well, we give out those responsibilities, we then write those responsibilities down so so these job roles should be documented. That means job descriptions. We communicate those responsibilities to people, so we sit them down, we give them the job description, we explain the job description, and then we hold people accountable for doing that job. Other responsibilities that we have as top managers is to introduce a health and safety management system of some kind. And we'll talk about systems later in another part of the course. But broadly, it means what we have to have a policy, we have to have procedures in order to do things well, then we have to check that things are going well and review our performance and improve how things are going. That's broadly what a system looks like. We should also set goals for the organization. Top managers set the safety direction, the safety goals. So we decide whether safety matters or not. Some directors decide safety doesn't matter. Our goal is sales. Yes, but does safety matter or not? We decide the goal. So let's just pause there for a moment and do a quick exercise. This is a very simple exercise, but I'm trying to make a point. Can you please drag the role against the job title? Well, obviously, directors direct. Managers manage and supervisors supervise. Yes, what I'm setting out there is that we might have different levels in the hierarchy of the organization. Now, every organization is different. Some are very, very tall hierarchies with lots of different management levels. But here at Compassa, we're very small, so we have a very flat hierarchy. But broadly speaking, we have workers, we have people who lead the workers and supervise the workers, we have a manager, and then we have some very senior people at the very top. Let's look at all these different roles and responsibilities. So starting at the very top, because safety starts at the very top. The whole safety culture of the organization is influenced by the people at the very, very top of the organization. If the people at the top are corrupt and don't do their job well, or they don't care about safety, it just corrupts everything throughout the rest of the hierarchy. So here we're saying these are directors and senior managers. Now, we can argue about the job titles. I don't think the job titles really matter that much, but these are the most senior people in the organization. They may be a senior manager or a director or a president or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But the people at the top are personally responsible for the management of health and safety. They are the people who authorize whether safety actions are taken or not taken, and they are personally responsible for their decisions. Firstly, they are the ones who create a health and safety system, and then they have to put the resources into making sure that system starts and continues to be maintained. When I say resources, we're talking about time, money, trained people. That could be equipment, it could be software, computers, tablets, everything you need to manage health and safety and have a formal safety management system. And then they should set a direction for the system. What are the goals? What are the targets? What are the objectives? What are we trying to achieve? Do we want to reduce accidents by 25%? Do we want to get everybody trained in NEBOSH qualifications? You're just setting some goals, and that is the job of the very, very top of the organization. People at this level don't usually get too involved in the day-to-day management of health and safety. So these people are not doing risk assessments, they're not doing accident investigations, they're generally not doing inspections or any of that day-to-day stuff. But that doesn't mean they're not responsible for it. They are responsible for it. They are responsible for making sure those things get done and done well. And they are also broadly responsible for making sure all the rules are followed. Now, they are not the police officers of the organization. Their job is not to supervise. That's the supervisor's job. But if a supervisor is not supervising, for whatever reason, that is the responsibility of the top manager. If a supervisor doesn't want to enforce the rules, or if a supervisor does not have the competence to enforce the rules, then yes, that's their fault, but it's also the responsibility of the people at the top of the organization who have to provide the training, who have to be very clear. It's your job to enforce the rules, and we have to hold those supervisors accountable when they don't enforce the rules. So they should hold their junior colleagues to account. This is absolutely crucial for you. If you're looking to be a safety professional, worth remembering that you probably do not have the authority to hold anyone to account. You are just the safety professional. You're not anyone's boss. Who's the boss? Well, it's the person at the top Who has to hold managers to account if they're not doing things safely? Well, you have to go to the senior manager or the director. Finally, and this is super useful and it's very, very important, we have to make sure that these directors and senior managers are visible and seen to be involved in health and safety. They have to be seen to care about safety. So we want to get them out of the office and onto the front line. They need to be walking around sometimes. They need to be seen to be walking around, not just invisible. You don't want them walking around after work has stopped or before work has started. So they walk around, they see people, they see whether things are safe or not safe, and they should be seen to be challenging or requiring good safety standards. So if they see something unsafe, these senior directors and managers have to be stepping in and saying, oh, that doesn't look very safe. Let's just stop work, everyone, for a moment. This doesn't look very safe. Right, is this safe or not safe? Like, that's not safe. Right, why is this not safe? What do we need to do? Do you need more time? Do you need more equipment? Do you need more training? What's happening here? By taking that action, they are sending a very strong message to the whole organization that safety really does matter. There are some other things they could get involved in. They could get involved in, for example, training. So I deliver a lot of safety training, and I usually ask for a senior manager to open the training for me. A senior manager just to spend 2 to 3 minutes just saying, hi, thank you very much for coming to this training today. This training is about this topic, and this is a very important topic for us. This is why it's important to us. This is what we're trying to achieve. Thank you so much for coming. Please, this is Will, please collaborate with Will and participate in the training with your full heart and soul. Contributions like that from a senior manager make all the difference to the training because it says to people, this really does matter. Other things they could be involved in, it's not just training, but it could be briefings, meetings, they could be involved in risk assessments, and so on. Finally, I would say this, when people come back with a complaint about health and safety, when they have a suggestion or a problem or an issue, the director or the manager has to take that seriously. They have to listen and then be seen to be acting on those problems. And if they don't act on the problems or if they don't listen, that sends the wrong message to everybody. That sends a message that safety does not matter. And it gives permission to everybody to ignore health and safety in the future. Because they'll think, well, the boss doesn't care about health and safety, so it doesn't really matter if I break this rule. So that's the role of the senior managers and directors. Now let's just move down one level in the hierarchy. Let's go to managers. Now manager, they could be a frontline manager or a middle manager, but they're not quite as senior as the top people now. They don't create the policy, they don't authorize the policy, but what they do is that they have to implement the policy on the front line. Their job is doing it. Whatever the policy says should be done, the manager's job is to make sure that gets done. So whereas a senior manager should provide the money to buy good quality and safe equipment, the manager on the front line, their job is to make sure that equipment is provided and it's available and that it's maintained and kept in good condition. So their job is to make sure that it gets checked and fixed and repaired and so on. Now, they might be directly responsible for supervision, but if they're not directly responsible for supervision, they are responsible still for making sure the supervision is there. So they should delegate the supervision to somebody who can be trusted to supervise. Managers are usually the ones who do the risk assessments, the inspections, and the incident investigations. Now, many organizations, that's not true. Many organizations, all of those things are given to the safety professional, and we expect them to do the risk assessments and investigations. Now, that's not ideal. That can work, but either way, it's important that the manager is involved. If the manager's not doing it themselves personally, they should at least be involved in the risk assessment, in the investigation, and in the inspections. Managers are organizing work on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And what they have to do is when organizing work is consider the safety impact. They have to think about what is the impact on health and safety, on risk when I organize my work in this way. So they are deciding what gets done, when it gets done, how many people are there to do it, what equipment is available, how long they have to do it in terms of their deadlines. And they need to be thinking not just about getting the work done, but also about getting the work done well in terms of the quality of the work, keeping the customer satisfied, and making sure nobody is injured or ill from doing the work. They have lots of different priorities, and safety is one priority out of many. They can't waste money, they can't waste any products, they can't waste any time. Very difficult job to do. Let's move down now to the level of supervisors or team leaders. The job title doesn't matter, but it's that frontline level. So these are not managers, but they're kind of like just between the manager and the front line. Their job is to supervise, that day-to-day constant supervision. They are there directly in the workplace. They don't work in offices, supervisors. They're there. They are communicating with workers regularly throughout the day. Their job is to watch things and watch for all kinds of problems, including health and safety problems. They should act to fix a health and safety problem if they have the power to do so. So if they see somebody working unsafely, they should instantly step in and say, hey, put your glasses on. And so the person puts their glasses on. Now, if there's a problem they cannot fix because they don't have the authority or the resources, then they need to report that to the person above them, their manager. So they are a link really between the frontline workers and the managers. Now, they might take part in risk assessments and investigations. Usually people at this level are not fully trained accident investigators or risk assessors, but they may be able to do very simple low-level accident investigations or near-miss investigations possibly. But what they can do is they can talk to their teams and they can deliver briefings, toolbox talks. They may be able to deliver kind of low-level simple training if they have the competence to deliver training. Day to day, they should lead by example, which means that they should work safely, follow the rules, wear the PPE. They should set the example as to how things are done. This really matters culturally. If you have a team leader or a supervisor who is anti-health and safety, that's going to be a real problem because people look to the supervisor for influence, as an example. They are the example. We tend to copy what the supervisor does. So if the supervisor is not working safely, that will corrupt the behavior of everyone in the area. So it's very important to get supervisors who are for good health and safety standards, who are competent and willing to do things well, people who set a high standard. Finally, I would say supervisors and team leaders know their teams better than anyone else does. So the top people, unfortunately, do not know the front line that well most of the time, but the team leader and the supervisor does. This matters when giving people jobs because they will know what the capabilities and competence are of their team. They'll know if someone has a bad back, and that matters because you wouldn't want to give a very difficult manual handling task to someone who already has a bad back. It's not obvious that someone has a bad back sometimes. It's not obvious that someone has a health condition, which means they're a little bit less capable at doing certain jobs. So supervisors are often the people who decide who does exactly what job. To allocate those jobs in a safe way, they have to know who is capable of doing those jobs safely. So let's pause for a moment and do a short exercise, very simple exercise, but a bit more complicated than the last one. Could you match the role against the job title? Okay, so that was a little bit more complicated than the last one. Now let's do an exercise to help prepare you for your NEBOSH assessment. Please take a moment to read through this short case study, scroll down if you can't see the full thing, scroll down and select what additional things the manager could do to fulfill their responsibilities. So you can see there was quite a bit which went wrong there. So we were asked to select what additional things they could do. The only incorrect answer there was to carry out an investigation on the incident. They are already doing that, and therefore that's not an additional thing. As always, please check your written materials and do any final exercises, and I will see you in the next tutorial.